It's just like instant. You touch it and it's right there. There goes the exhaust brake. And then we're sitting at 24 miles a gallon. This thing is very... Today is the day we finally have these 2025 Ram heavy duties starting to come in. This is our very, very first one. It wouldn't be right if I didn't take it for a spin and show it to you guys. So if you guys don't know, Ram made a huge switch this year. They finally went with an 8-speed ZF transmission. No more old 6 speeds, no more of that old stuff. We're rocking with a much more modern powertrain. It's an absolutely big difference. I haven't driven it yet, but my coworker, I'll leave his channel up here, he said that the second you drive it, you are never gonna want a Duramax or Power Stroke again. That's obviously a pretty big claim. We will see if that's true, but we will drive it. We're gonna check out the exhaust brake, all that good stuff. Along with the new 8-speed, they have gone with all high output engines. So there's no more standard and high output. I know a lot of people didn't like that whole idea. This one has 430 horsepower and 1075 torque. Nothing too extraordinarily different than the last model, the high output anyways, but paired up with the 8-speed, a different gear ratio, all that stuff, we are going to see how it feels, because the reality is that is plenty of power at the end of the day. As per usual, everybody, this one is for sale here at Tempe Dodge in Tempe, Arizona. I do work here. I'm the fleet manager here. If you have any interest at all, shoot me an email. I'll leave it down below, along with a link to this particular truck. One of the biggest things that has me excited for these new trucks is just the fact that there were a lot of complaints with the Ison and the old 68 RFE. If you guys are fairly up to speed, I'm not going to go into super big detail. There's a lot of videos that'll walk you through every single tiny thing with these. Not really my thing, but there were a lot of complaints with the sluggish feel of the Ison, some reliability concerns with the 68 RFE, etc., etc. So hopefully this is going to completely change that narrative. Also, one of the big things with these trucks is obviously the towing capacity. Ram, in my opinion, does a good job having 3 completely separate categories of trucks, unlike most where the 250 and 350s or 2500s and 3500s are basically the same thing in a single rear configuration. Ram has completely different trucks. So this particular one has 2,105 pounds of payload, which puts it right around 19,500 pounds of towing. Obviously, payload's a little light. We already know the drill. Not gonna go super into that in this video. Ram did also make some pretty decent exterior changes. I personally dig the grille myself. Some people seem to not like it as much. I personally like it. That's all personal preference. They did do a new CP8 pump, so no CP4s to worry about, and it's more advanced than the CP3, should be a better performer, blah, blah, blah. But you guys didn't come here to watch me walk around the truck and talk about it. Let's jump in it and drive it. Real quick, obviously this isn't necessarily a video about this exact truck. It's a Laramie level 1 package, pretty standard equipment that you're used to seeing with the new mirrors, the digital screen, the 12-inch screen, it's not the 14. I will leave a link to this truck and I'll put the window sticker up right here. But like I say, this is much more of just a 2025 Ram discussion in general than it is a conversation on this exact truck. So one thing I noticed right away, when you jump in the truck and you put it in drive, it starts in 2nd gear. That's right, it doesn't start in 1st gear unless you put it in tow haul mode, then it will start in 1st gear. So 1st gear must be geared pretty low. Don't really need it just for driving around. When you're towing, boom, you have 1st gear. This particular one, well, all of the new diesels have a 3:42 rear end ratio, a rear axle ratio. I'm not gonna dig through every single individual gear. You guys can do that on your own if you want to. So as we're just making our first turn here, one thing that already jumped out at me is that the engine is very smooth. If you guys have driven a lot of the previous Cummins generations, you'll know what I mean. You still had a lot of that kind of rattle feeling and some of that stuff, which personally, I don't mind at all myself. In fact, I kind of like it. It still feels a little bit raw, blah, blah, blah. This one is very smooth. There's not a lot of that diesel rattling or anything like that. So already, you could call that an improvement. Like I say, doesn't personally make a difference to me, but on paper, that's probably better. Another thing I'm noticing right away is, particularly with the Ison, the old trucks had a reputation for being a little bit, say, sluggish a little bit. They took a second to get going. It's well documented. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. That is like not a thing anymore. It's very responsive as pretty much any diesel you're going to drive. Don't notice any particular sluggishness or anything like that. You put your foot on it and it is there right away. That's pretty awesome because, like I say, the biggest complaint with the Ison was once you got out of like second gear, you had all the power in the world, but until you got to third gear, it was very sluggish, very torque managed. You have none of that here. This feels a lot more like the 68 RFE wasn't really torque managed at all. It was a lot zippier down low at lower speeds. That's how this one feels, but it has the power of the high output, dude. This thing is, so far, it seems awesome. All right, we're getting on the freeway here. Like I say, immediately you notice how much smoother the whole powertrain system is. It's a lot more buttery than previously. The other notable difference is obviously the big difference that happens when you have more gears is you stay in your power more. Right here, we're at, mildly over the speed limit. RPMs were still pretty much in a good range. Let's go ahead and set the adaptive cruise or something here. Boom, let's set it. Say you wanted to go 70 miles an hour. Let's just see where the RPM set at 70 miles an hour. Right there, somewhere 1600-ish RPM, somewhere in there. Let's see what kind of fuel economy that puts us at the current second. We'll reset that real fast. Whatever number pops up right there will be our current. So currently sitting at 70 miles an hour, getting somewhere around 20 mpgs. Obviously, that's a little bit, inflated for the current moment. But, if you average, say, 18, 19 on a brand new truck, you'll do a little bit better as time goes on and it breaks in a little bit more. So far, I'm pretty impressed with that. Overall, guys, the truck feels awesome. It's super easy, very smooth. You stay in your power more. Initial impressions are very good. But obviously, Cummins is known, and Ram is known for the exhaust brake and the towing. Well, I can't hook up to a 20,000-pound trailer here today. We could at least test out the exhaust brakes, stack it up against some of the prior generations, and see if that is still up to par. Coming off the freeway here, foot on the brake just a little bit. Ooh, that downshift in the exhaust brake still feels amazing. Obviously, like I say, I'm not towing anything. There, it's grabbing down another gear. I think this one still works just fine, guys. This thing works awesome. Like I say, obviously, I know I'm not towing 40,000 pounds down a grade, I understand. But just as a quick example, oh yeah. Oh, she works. Oh, she works. Yes, dude. This is so much better than the last trucks. This genuinely might be like Ram's saving grace. Okay, we're getting back on the freeway here. I want to do a little bit more of an aggressive acceleration. It's always hard to make these things come through on camera. So we're at 50 miles an hour. Let's just go foot down. Oh my gosh, the power's just like instant. You touch it and it's right there. There goes the exhaust brake, dude. This new setup is insane. Then we're sitting at 24 miles a gallon. This thing is very impressive. So after driving it, guys, what do I think? I think it's really impressive. I haven't driven a lot of the high output Power Strokes. I've driven a couple. Obviously, they have more power on paper and in practice, most likely. But if you guys are familiar with Cummins versus the V8s, blah, 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 you are not going to be disappointed. They did a really good job with this new powertrain setup from what I can tell from my original drive. Obviously, like I say, I haven't towed 20,000 pounds with it or anything, but I don't see that being an issue. This thing is a beast. But that's gonna pretty much wrap up the video, guys. Make sure to drop a like. Let me know what you think down below, and don't forget to subscribe.